All right, so we're going to do a deep dive today into a pretty interesting story that's kind of making some waves in the software development world.
Oh, yeah.
It's about this AI agent. It's called Devin, and it was built by Cognition Labs.
Okay.
And get this, it's designed to work just like a junior developer would.
Interesting.
But here's where things get a little strange. Devin actually costs more to use than just hiring a human junior dev, like in India, for example.
Why?
So that's the question we're going to try to answer today. Why would any company choose to pay more for an AI when they could get, a person for less money? And there's a lot of those folks out there.
Right.
So we're going to look at a few things. We've got this tech article that breaks down all of Devin's capabilities.
Right.
We've got some of the, chatter that's happening on social media, developers talking about it, what they think.
That makes sense.
And then we've got some thoughts from, some of the big names in the industry. So first things first, what does this Devin thing actually do? The article says it can fix bugs, but specifically in the front end, the part that the user actually sees and interacts with.
Okay.
It can also, this is cool, it can create the initial code for a new feature, so you don't have to start from scratch.
Mm.
And it can refactor existing code, make it more efficient, clean it up, all that.
Right.
Oh, and it can also work with platforms you're probably already using, like Slack and VS Code.
So it's sort of like having a really, like a super efficient junior developer, always ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Handling all those essential tasks, but, the ones that can sometimes be a little bit tedious.
Yeah.
And that really is a big chunk of what junior developers spend their time on.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like what Devin is trying to do is not really replace, like senior engineers or architects.
Right.
But instead to automate this very specific part of a whole development process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the question is, how well can it do all of that?
Well, the article has some pretty interesting examples of Devin, in action.
Oh, really?
Apparently, it actually became one of the top contributors at Cognition Labs.
For their own work?
Yeah, for their internal tools and their front-end repositories. It even, this is wild, it monitored its own launch data.
What?
It collected the information and put it into a spreadsheet.
So it's almost like saying, hey, look, Devin is so good, it can even analyze its own performance.
Right.
That's clever.
And there's more. Devin was able to solve, test, and fix a bug in another AI system called Anthropic's Model Context Protocol. So it was AI debugging AI.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So if you look at the bigger picture, what we're saying is that these AI systems can not only write code, they can actually understand and fix problems in other AI systems.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder where this is all going. I mean, are we headed toward a future where AI is mostly responsible for, maintaining and improving itself?
It's a pretty mind-blowing thought. Yeah.
But let's shift gears a little bit, talk about how this is actually being used in the real world.
Okay.
There are some companies already using Devin, and they've had some interesting stories.
Like what?
One engineer said they gave Devin a bug to fix, and then they went to their son's piano lesson.
Okay.
Came back, and Devin had solved the problem perfectly.
Right. Wow, talk about saving time.
Right.
That really gets to the core of what a tool like this can offer,
Yeah.
It's not really about replacing humans, but it's about freeing us up so we can focus on the more complex stuff, let the AI handle the routine things.
And that impact on how long a project takes, I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Nubank, it's a big digital bank in Brazil, they said Devin helped them finish a project in just 2 months.
Wow.
And they originally estimated it would take them 1.5 years.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, if these claims are accurate, then it's easy to see why companies might be willing to spend more on Devin.
Right. Even if they could hire, developers for less.
Yeah.
The potential return on investment, I mean, just in terms of how fast you can get things done, how efficient you can be, could be pretty significant. But, we got to look at the whole picture here.
Right, and that brings us to what the article calls the junior developer dilemma.
Okay.
They say that Devin is as good as a junior developer, and what they mean is it has the same strengths and weaknesses.
Ah, that's an important point.
Yeah.
It shows that AI, at least at this point, isn't some, magical cure-all.
Right.
It's still limited by the data it learns from and the algorithms that make it work.
And developers are bringing up some good points, some concerns.
Like what?
One big one is that they feel like they don't have enough control over the process.
Mhm.
Like, they're giving Devin a task, but they have no idea what's happening inside. Like, it's a black box.
Right. And that's tied into the larger challenges of AI in general, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do we understand how AI makes decisions?
Yeah.
And then can we trust those decisions?
Exactly, especially if the AI is writing code for something really important.
Absolutely. You need to be able to understand how it got to that solution for
Um,
debugging, for security, making sure the code actually fits with the overall design.
Right, and then there's the whole back and forth communication thing.
Yeah,
The point of an AI coder is to automate stuff.
right.
But if you have to keep clarifying like what you want or keep tweaking the code after it's done,
Yeah.
it kind of defeats the purpose.
It does. Yeah. It highlights the trade-off,
Mhm.
between letting the AI just do its thing and being able to control what it does.
Right.
The more freedom you give the AI, the less you might understand about its decision-making,
Yeah.
which can lead to, maybe the AI creates code that's technically correct,
Right.
but it doesn't actually match what you, the developer, wanted.
Yeah.
And then you need more changes, more adjustments.
Ugh, that's annoying.
It is.
And here's where things get really interesting. The article talks about Indian IT professionals. A lot of them work on AI projects for clients all over the world,
Right.
but they're hesitant. They don't want to use AI coding tools for themselves.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's like there's got to be more to this than just cost and efficiency, right?
Yeah, there could be cultural factors at play.
They could.
Concerns about how reliable AI code actually is.
Mhm.
Or maybe they just recognize that human developers bring something unique to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, software development is more than just churning out code.
Right.
It's about understanding problems, working together, and building things that meet, specific human needs.
Absolutely.
It's a very human-centered field in a lot of ways.
That's a good point.
Even when we're using AI to help us,
Yeah.
we can't lose sight of that human element.
And when you think about it, this hesitancy, it makes sense when you consider how the Indian IT industry is structured.
Yeah.
Their whole model, it's built on having tons of really skilled developers.
Right.
It's a huge part of their economy. It's where a lot of people have jobs. So naturally, they'd be a little cautious about anything that could disrupt that whole system.
Yeah, AI tools could change the entire IT workforce.
Right.
Raise concerns about job security.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, totally.
On the one hand, AI could make Indian IT companies even more competitive.
Right.
They could take on more work, be more productive.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, people could lose their jobs. There could be economic uncertainty.
Definitely a complex issue. No easy answers.
Yeah, and it's not just India.
Right. The impact of AI on jobs is a global thing.
But India is, such a major player in IT.
Absolutely.
Makes it a really interesting case study.
Yeah, it really highlights the bigger picture.
Right, the impact this technology could have on society as a whole.
It's not just about the cool features.
Yeah.
And how much money you can save.
We have to think about the people, too.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Devin's price tag.
Yeah.
$500 a month might seem reasonable for, say, a Silicon Valley startup.
Yeah, they've got tons of funding.
But for a company in India,
Yeah, where budgets are tighter.
that could be a real barrier.
Especially if they're already unsure about how AI is going to affect everything.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of mixed reactions and uncertainty around Devin.
Mm-hmm.
Some developers are excited,
Right, they see the potential.
but others are being more cautious. And then you've got the perspective from India.
Right, which adds a whole new layer to the discussion.
What I find so fascinating is that we're basically witnessing the very early stages of this huge technological shift.
Yeah.
It could have massive consequences. I mean, it's like the early days of the internet or the smartphone.
Yeah, it's going to be big, but you don't know exactly how.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes these deep dives so interesting.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at the latest gadget.
Right, we're talking about the bigger
The
questions,
human stories.
the potential consequences.
It's not just about the tech itself.
Yeah,
It's about how it interacts with the world, with the people in it.
and in Devin's case, it's really about how our relationship with machines is changing.
How are we going to work alongside AI?
How do we make sure it benefits everyone?
These are questions we're going to be grappling with for years to come.
Definitely a lot to think about.
It is, but it's important to have these conversations.
Right, we can't just ignore what's happening.
Exactly, and pretend that AI isn't reshaping the world around us.
And it's not just developers or tech companies.
No, AI is going to affect every industry.
Every part of our lives.
We need to have these conversations
Yeah, informed and thoughtful conversations.
about how we want to shape the future.
And what role we want AI to play in it.
I think that's the key.
So let's recap
Yeah.
our deep dive into Devin and all this AI-powered coding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are the key takeaways you think people should remember?
The most important one, I think, is that AI is powerful, but it's not magic.
Right.
You got to approach it with a critical eye.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what it can do.
And what it can't do.
Exactly.
So if you're a developer listening, don't worry, your job isn't going away tomorrow.
But it is changing.
And the skills that are going to be most valuable
In this new world.
are the ones that are, well, uniquely human.
Things like critical thinking,
Creativity,
problem solving,
the ability to collaborate.
communicate complex ideas.
I love that, the uniquely human skills.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype.
Yeah, and think AI is going to take over everything.
But at the end of the day, it's a tool.
A tool that needs to be used by people.
And that means we have to be thoughtful.
About how we use it.
How we train it.
And how we make sure it aligns with, our values as a society.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to stay informed, to be part of these discussions.
Engage with it all.
And think critically about the role of AI in our lives.
It's a conversation that everyone needs to have.
Not just the people building the tech.
So to leave everyone with a final thought,
Okay.
I'm going to borrow a line from one of the developers we talked about earlier. They said, and this is a good one, AI always gives you an answer. And the answer is not just wrong, but also very hard to detect what is wrong about it.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think it really sums up some of the concerns we've been talking about.
Yeah, it really highlights how important it is to be vigilant.
To think critically.
And to really, truly understand the systems we're creating.
You can't just blindly trust AI.
Right. You need to be able to evaluate it, identify potential issues.
Absolutely.
And as tools like Devin become more sophisticated, more integrated into how we work,
yeah,
it's going to be even more important to be able to spot the difference.
Between what's actually correct and what's just, good enough.
And that's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's going to require technical expertise and strong judgment.
That's a great point to end on.
As we keep exploring what AI can do,
yeah,
it's important to remember that the most important questions
aren't always the ones with easy answers.
And the most valuable skills
aren't always the ones that can be easily automated. Okay, so, what does all this mean for the average person out there? What's the takeaway from our, deep dive into AI-powered coding and this Devin thing?
Well, the article mentioned that Devin is really good at fixing those front-end bugs, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that it seems like it's especially good at catching those syntax errors.
Oh, yeah.
Those little typos, the mistakes in the code that can cause big problems.
Right, like missing a semicolon or something.
Exactly. But when it comes to logic errors, those, more complex issues that come from flaws in how the program is designed, well, Devin seems to struggle a bit more with those.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah, if you think about it, syntax is all about following the rules of the coding language, which is something that AI can learn pretty easily.
Right.
But logic, that requires a deeper understanding of the actual problem you're trying to solve. And that's where we humans still have an edge, at least for now.
That distinction between syntax and logic errors, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It shows that AI can be super powerful for certain tasks, but there are still some areas where human intuition and understanding are just crucial.
Absolutely.
Something I was thinking about, the article didn't really talk much about security vulnerabilities.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is another area where AI coding tools raise some big questions.
Yeah.
Could AI accidentally introduce security flaws into the code it generates?
That's possible.
Or could it actually be used to help find and fix those vulnerabilities?
It could be used for both.
Right. These are definitely things we need to explore more, especially as these tools become, more widely used.
Absolutely. And speaking of how these tools are used, the article mentioned that Devin works with VS Code.
Yeah.
But it didn't really explain what that actually looks like.
Yeah, how does that actually work in practice?
Right. Imagine if, as you're coding, Devin is analyzing your code in real time.
Oh.
And it's suggesting code snippets or even completing entire lines of code for you.
It'd be like a super-powered autocomplete.
Exactly. Helping you write code way faster.
That would be amazing.
It would be like having a coding buddy.
Right there in your IDE.
Helping you catch errors, speeding up your work.
But then the question of control comes up again.
It always does.
How much would you trust the AI's suggestions?
Right. Would you just blindly accept every suggestion?
Or would you carefully review each one?
It's a balance. You want the efficiency of AI helping you out.
Yeah.
But you also need to stay in control of the final product.
And the article also mentioned that some developers are worried about the lack of transparency in AI-generated code.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's like a black box.
You don't know how he got to that solution.
Especially if you're working on a complex project, you need to understand the logic behind every line of code.
Yeah.
What if the AI generates code that works, but it's really convoluted or inefficient?
Or what if it introduces bugs that are, like, really hard to find?
That brings us back to the need for developers to have strong debugging skills, even as AI tools become more common.
Right, because AI can help with the coding part, but it can't replace the need for human oversight.
And critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are skills that are only going to become more valuable.
As we move forward.
We need developers who can not only write code, but also understand it, debug it, and maintain code that's been generated or influenced by AI.
So it seems like the future of software development is going to involve a pretty close partnership between humans and AI.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not about one replacing the other.
Right.
It's about figuring out how to use the strengths of both.
I think that's a great way to put it.
The key is going to be to build AI tools that help us do more.
That make us more efficient, more creative, more effective in our work.
Tools like Devin are really just the beginning.
Yeah, AI is going to keep evolving. We're going to see even more powerful coding tools. It's a really exciting time to be in software development.
Yeah, it is.
Lots of uncertainty.
But lots of potential, too.
And I think our deep dive today has given us a lot to think about.
It has, as we try to navigate all of this.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And remember, the most important thing is to stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking the tough questions.
Couldn't agree more.